Demon's Souls. If there's one monumental critique I can give right off the bat, it's that title. How dare you put an S at the end of the word demon, leading it to another word that begins with S. It's something that 99.9% of the player base subtly voiced their disgust over by calling the title by its true canon name, Demon's Souls. You see how that rolls off the tongue? Demon's Souls, not Demon's Souls. But it's a fitting title, because that microscopic level of difficulty that comes with saying the title with the added S was foreshadowing for the microscopic level of difficulty that comes with platinuming this game, while following a platinum guide. And if you think that means that I'm a cheap bitch, and the statements I made in my Modern Warfare Remastered Platinum video where I talk about not using exploits and earning the platinum have completely collapsed, much like the proper way to say the title, I don't give an S. Common misunderstood things by new players like world and character tendency, the cost of dying in human form, where the rest of your fucking health is, what's worth upgrading, what's worth seeking out, how to trigger side quests and get NPCs to spawn, all completely absent when you follow a platinum guide, play-by-play, strap on your royalty class with Soul Arrow Ray and Crescent Falchion, and go to town. Now, just to make sure I'm not misunderstood with my approach, when what's connected to a platinum are things like meet this one NPC that won't show up if you died a single time in human form, find this one collectible that you might miss because you took a different path, kill this one NPC, defeat a certain boss with a weapon that doesn't coincide at all with your possible build and you may not have picked it up anyway, buy all types of magic using boss souls you could have possibly already used for different shit, etc, etc. I'm not gonna waste my time and do that shit. Well, let me just shut up a second and broaden my perspective a little. It's not a waste of time to pour dozens of hours into a game and learning everything about it yourself. I'm not gonna play the cliche Souls casual douchebag and say, oh, I got a girlfriend and a job and I touch grass in my spare time. So how can you expect me to have the time to learn these things when I have other new releases to buy and not get my money's worth with? It's a sad reality that has plagued a majority of the gaming community, both by casual consumers and consumers looking to make YouTube content, which is to beat the game as fast as possible, or play enough just so you can talk about it, or worse, so you can talk about it and pretend you understand it in its totality. Ergo, what I'm doing now. Remember the good old days when you were young and had smart but poor parents who would buy you a single game and say, here, you little shit, try and get 1,000 hours out of this game that you can beat in 10. Getting the most out of a game so long as you're still having fun and any lack of fun isn't just coming from pure impatience and bratty behavior should be a top priority for the majority of gamers. And it will never be a top priority for the majority of gamers. Unless you're a multiplayer-centric person, I guess. But fuck you, single-player junkies are harder, better, faster, stronger. Fist up, my friends. I wouldn't approach Souls games the way I do if it wasn't for the fact that all of them were part of platinum bets from a friend of mine, but it's something that I will change in the future. I really wish I didn't have to use guides for these games, and all the trophies were just tied to the bosses. I mean, I'd still save scum like hell, because in the case of Demon's Souls, if my punishment for not knowing how a boss, or for Christ's sake a fucking common enemy works on a first try and getting insta-killed, is running through the entire fucking level again just to hopefully get the souls I worked so hard for back and not die again and repeat the process, I'm just not gonna fucking let that happen. But I had a huge revelation midway through my Demon's Souls journey, that you don't have to use PS Plus cloud saves, and simply closing the game right before you respawn from a death will spawn you to the last time the game saved prior to that death. Could be the last time you saved and exited to the main menu, the fog door before a boss fight, or even just the last item you picked up. So even if you didn't consciously save and exit to cover yourself, you could have accidentally covered yourself a bunch of times. Game saved. To those curious about the actual timing of this strat, you have until the fog clears when you're about to respawn again to close game and reboot it. So don't think it's a case where if you frantically mess up closing the game immediately after the death shot, that you don't have a few more seconds to do it. So to anyone who sees this video and thought maybe I should try platinuming this game myself and I want to be a cheap bastard while doing so, I just saved you a shitload of time and a possible $10 on a PS Plus subscription if you don't have one. But regardless if you cheat or not, that aspect of having to go through every level deathless is the only real difficult part of this game. aside from farming certain items, but more on that later. The bosses are all easy. 90% of the common enemies are easy to react to. In my opinion, the only time the game throws out an objective fuck you is the Ritual Path, a narrow walking path on the side of a cliff with not only the most annoying enemy type in the game and the tumbling skeletons, but you got these dipshit flying stingrays shooting projectiles at you that you can never see coming if you're focusing on the enemies in front of you, and the stingrays are just far enough away that no ranged magic can reach them. Fuck all that shit. I honestly think this is the first area in a Souls game that I genuinely can't stand. Keep in mind, I haven't touched Dark Souls 2. But the only other area that comes to mind is the Londo Ruins in Dark Souls 1, where all those ghosts that can't be damaged without a magic or faith weapon will slice you through walls and shit. But I remember finding a rhythm for running past every enemy and healing at the perfect time to do what I needed to do to progress. But when it comes to the Ritual Path, you have no choice but to deal with the bullshit it has to offer. Because those stingray projectiles that do insane damage on New Game Plus are completely unpredictable and can't be avoided. Even if I can one-shot enemies on the narrow ledge when I'm super buffed up with magic, it doesn't change the fact that I need to take my time to pick those enemies off, and the stingray projectiles, once shot out of their stingray vaginas and cocks, don't follow a straight path and will slowly home in on you. And because of how fast the rolling skeletons are, how sometimes your magic can just fucking whiff and as a result leave you defenseless, it is easily the most difficult area in the game. And that would still be true if you took out the Reapers and their ghost minions inside the caves, which, while less difficult to deal with if you take Reapers out from a distance, can still slowly creep into the level of annoyance with the rest of the level. This is why having ranged methods of combat in this game is a top priority. Quite ironic, isn't it, that my two least favorite levels in terms of difficulty in Souls games both contain ghosts. It's almost like it's foreshadowing for the many deaths I've suffered at the hands of them, and foreshadowing for how afterwards I'd ascend to the afterlife of Soulsborne omnipotence, making it literally impossible to be touched. Have a greatsword, an axe, a magic wand, a talisman, a samurai sword, all will never taste my blood. An undead master of Soulsborne games, who gave his life to them to the point that all his peers and family proclaimed he has no life. But even with the power of all their misguided immature insults, his body was impenetrable. Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Sekiro, and Elden Ring, all beaten to platinum death so swift and so ferociously that he would forever be known as Elden Eric. An undead warrior with the appearance of a human being, a misunderstood stoic Giga Chad who was so bold that he wore sunglasses before they ever even existed, knowing full well that no warrior, no demon, no demigod, no beast monstrosity would ever be able to best him and see the cold, unforgiving eyes behind his tinted spectacles. But the Ritual Path is hard. Some people point to the Valley of Defilement in totality to be the hardest section of the game, but if you're not bum rushing your way through it, it's pretty easy. It's just one of those Souls games levels where patience and over-leveling will make it a cakewalk. And pretty much all of the Arc Stones in their entirety fall in line with this. People can bash me for save scumming, but if you can't get past a section in a Souls game, what the fuck are you gonna do besides gather some souls and level up before the difficult sections over and over until the process becomes as easy as it can be? In a way, it makes my playthrough experience more definitive, but who cares? While the nervousness and trepidation that comes with just trying to get to a boss in a Souls game is part of the charm, it does not mean that I have to fully embrace it for a second. Now, that's not to say that throughout my time playing Demon Souls that I didn't go through some sections blind. Since I had cloud saves before each level, there were times where I'd test my abilities by going through levels unaware of what was to come. And 99% of the time, I was able to traverse through the level unharmed. Now granted, it's because it isn't rocket science to be royalty class and just knock off every enemy from a distance, but it's what happened. I think regardless of class, the general consensus is that Demon Souls is the easiest From Software game ever released. So it's not like I'm asking you to tip your hat, I'm just saying I still had fun with my playthrough and it wasn't about foregoing any and all challenges that came my way. So much fun, in fact, that this became the Souls game I sunk the most hours into, next to Dark Souls Remastered. 4 new game pluses plus another new game and counting. Most people will judge replayability based on how many different endings there are in a game, how many different build options there are, the weapon variety, etc, etc. But for me, the number one thing that screams replayability in games of any genre is length of time to complete. If I can knock off a game in a few hours and it's enjoyable, it's gonna be a game I visit frequently. It's like the choice between having a long sex session where you're worried about your performance and how things other than your selfishness to blow your load in 2 seconds are taking priority, versus just blowing that fucking load as fast as you can. So many perfect analogies I can make with this game in my sex life. Short and powerful, quick and easy. If your experience with Demon's Souls, and hell this goes for a majority of the Souls game, is the opposite and it's slow and boring, it's probably because you, like a majority of casuals, put all your points into strength, because in other games that's the go-to stat, and you're slowly swinging that big-ass sword that depletes your stamina bar faster than it took me to complete the whole fucking game. Or you're stockpiling heavy armor sets to give you a slow dodge roll that makes it increasingly difficult to time your dodges for enemy attacks. I swear, aside from handicaps in Souls games that intentionally extend gameplay time, I think people putting Souls into strength is the sole reason that so many people consider these games unbeatable. Though if you do like strength, I'd recommend sticking with a battle axe in this game, where you can get the benefit of strength scaling without much loss of speed. After platinuming this game and knowing the layout of every level, the enemy placement, the bosses, etc., like the back of my hand, I couldn't help myself but to keep trucking on. I had to get my magic OP as fuck and then one-shot every boss with Firestorm. I had to do more miscellaneous shit in another New Game Plus while simultaneously one-shotting every boss with Firestorm again. Man, I tell ya, it is fucking exhilarating to one-shot every single boss with Firestorm. I also had a ton of fun grabbing every single collectible next to the blue and red dragon. This was something that I apparently couldn't do on a first playthrough according to the guide I was following. Yeah, suck it, bro. Learn how to make fucking content. I had to gather all those fucking ceramic coins and get the Penetrator armor set, which turned out to be a little annoying because I got to a point where the Latria Archstone in my second coin playthrough just wasn't spawning the coins, and I had to just beat the game again and get the remaining 2 in Bolteria. But who gives a shit? I got that armor set that I'm never gonna use. I took some sexy-ass Penetrator cosplay pictures. I fucking started a new game, which means if I want it back, I'd have to do the entire fucking process again. But guess what? I had fun while doing so. I farmed a shitload of souls in Latria, 5 million in fact, and like an idiot while I was testing different weapons, dumping them into specific stats, I accidentally cloud saved over the time where I overleveled Faith. But fuck it, cause the sole purpose of that was just to don that beautiful large sword of moonlight, which is easily, in my opinion, the most beautiful iteration of the classic sword. Speaking of beautiful, this game is fucking gorgeous. I never played the original Demon's Souls, but judging from the gameplay I've seen, this game is evidence that every Souls game should be remade. Fuck you if you disagree. It's proof that it is entirely possible to maintain the feel of the original while making the necessary modern graphical updates to ensure these worlds are showcased for how beautiful they are. My favorite area is by far the Tower of Latria. It is just fucking gorgeous. So much, in fact, that I started dipping into the maybe I should make a full ambiance video showcasing the environment in all its glory vibe. Even subtle things like the look of health, magic, and stamina bars reminded me of the modern-day Resident Evil games with the new menu templates. Like, oh, those are Elden Ring bars. How cute. One thing this game demanded of me due to the means needed to complete the platinum and get to the definitive end was online trophies. Good gosh golly, I have never experienced Souls game PvP and cooperative gameplay, but it can be fucking exhilarating. Due to this game being a couple years old and everyone and their mother with a YouTube account posting every video they've ever made with Elden Ring in the title, I thought I had been effectively stumped at ever achieving this platinum. But not only did I get summoned as the monk boss and absolutely destroyed the opposition with my OP magic build, I got to fulfill the requirement needed for the Assistance Trophy for Souls co-op online gameplay. It was the first time I got to help someone defeat a boss in a Souls game, which was much more satisfying than I can ever imagine. The cutest fucking experience ever. I spawned in as a blue phantom, pointed up at the ivory tower, like we're about to kill this motherfucker. And the girl, or I'm assuming male crossdresser, posing as a girl, started jumping up and down with glee because I was there to help them. Fucking amazing. I even threw a cute ass little salute at the end, like I was his or her soldier, helping them conquer this demon with the overwhelming power of generosity, like I wasn't just doing it to get the platinum over with. But overall, it was one of my favorite experiences ever in a Souls game, which is telling to how much cooperative experiences can be fucking gold. My whole point of farming those 5 million souls, like I said earlier, was so I could test different weapons and get the most off of the ones that scaled off of certain stats. Since I failed by fucking up the cloud saves, I figured the only right way to go about it was to start a new game and not prioritize magic at all. This is where looking up what are the best or most fun to use weapons in the game should come in handy, but to my surprise there weren't any videos on YouTube covering this in general, just the quintessential build videos, or the video type that I cannot fucking stand, which is how to be OP in 2 seconds from the start of the game, how to fucking beat the game by the moment you insert the fucking dicks. By the time you insert the fucking disc, how to absolutely cheese this fucking boss. I know I used a platinum guide for this game, but those type of videos make me fucking sick. Does nobody want to just get a basic idea of game mechanics or things to prioritize without just copying and pasting someone's fucking test? Like I've said in the past, Souls game difficulty across almost all of the titles, with the exception of Sekiro, all just comes down to what you know and what you don't know. So why would you want to fucking know everything and defeat the entire purpose of the game? Which is again, what I did. But once again, after platinuming a Souls game, I immediately wanted more. I immediately wanted to explore different approaches to gameplay, dive deeper into the lore behind bosses. It's something as a Souls player, you either get it or you don't. I don't know what it is about these games that makes them so compelling to explore over and over. They all follow a specific formula, all simplistic while at the same time the complete opposite. I love when some of the bosses have clearly deep stories behind them instead of just being a gigantic demon. While King Allant is the big final boss and his backstory is very interesting, the Lady Estrella fight is my favorite fight in the entire fucking game. And it's barely a fight if you just snipe her from a distance. But the setting of this fight, the music, the story behind Estrella is one of my favorites across all of Souls games. It was the first boss that actually made me feel like a piece of shit for killing her. Great stuff. So maybe it's anticlimactic to close off on the thing that is the absolute worst part about achieving the fucking platinum in this game. Well, actually reading that sentence back, it sounds hype. But it's so not hype. Farming certain items in this game can be absolute fucking hell. And I'm talking about the illustrious gold coins specifically. 3 hours. 3 mind-numbing fucking hours of farming a single official to get a gold coin to drop. Whenever someone will ask me what are the worst trophies I've ever achieved as far as shit completely lacking skill, I always go blank. It's like I completely shut my brain off whenever I have to farm something for multiple hours in a game. And there's really no other way to do it, because why cement that horrible memory into your brain? But now since I'm writing this, I have one to remember. No amount of item discovery boosting shit made it any less tedious to do the same thing over and over for 3 fucking hours with minimal breaks in between. Cause it's like gambling at a slot machine. Oh, this is gonna be the one, I feel it. Only to be disappointed for hours on end. Now it's funny because the gold coin actually isn't the most sought after collectible in the game as far as sheer popularity goes, and just how many times I personally have seen it pop up in forum discussions. Versus the pure Bladestone. Every time I see people talking about the platinum or upgrading a dex weapon to +5 sharp, I always see, yeah, good luck on that pure Bladestone, bro, I gave up. And fucking hilariously, the guide I was following said the same shit and he got it on his 6th attempt. And he was like, yeah, you'll likely be here for much longer than I was. And sure enough, just like him, I got a pure Bladestone on attempt number 6. Fucking beautiful. It's like that joy and luck was a prize for having to deal with the 3-hour gold coin grind later on in my playthrough. And even more hilariously, when I decided to start a new game, the roles were switched. I came across 2 gold coins while trying to change Stonefang to pure black tendency in one of my new game pluses. I figured, hey, since I'm throwing myself off this ledge 7 times, why not try and farm the official I was originally farming for 3 hours to get a laugh? Let's see if I could get any drops to make me feel like I wanted to throw myself off a fucking ledge 7 times in real life, and I was not disappointed. On my ceramic coin hunt, I killed a black phantom official for a 3rd gold coin. This is getting a little fucking ridiculous. And then of course, as far as my new game, I got a gold coin drop on my literal 2nd official kill, when of course I had no intention of grinding for it in that playthrough. I don't have the footage, but trust me, it happened. So that is 4 gold coins, obtained with minimal effort and no intention of obtaining them, after 3 hours of intending to obtain them. And trust me, this game is not done fucking with me. So back to my new game. Considering in this playthrough I wanted to do a dex build, I killed a red skeleton samurai literally 20 times in a fucking row and didn't get a single bladestone shard. Not even a fucking shard, only soul remains. Just fucking perfect, right? Now you can apparently play with your luck stat to get better item drops, but who wants to fucking waste souls on that shit? You could also shift the Black World tendency for better item drops, which isn't a big deal if you're farming for Bladestone specifically, because on the ritual path, once you've gotten what you need, the primeval demon is right there on the cliff after the skeletons. You don't have to fucking worry about possibly getting stuck in a pure black world. And for some reason, I found that item drops, regardless of world tendency, tend to drop more in the second area of a level, even if it's the same enemies, which makes sense because they're more powerful versions, I guess. This is what skyrocketed my Bladestone farming, because originally I was farming off the one right before the Adjudicator fight, since I was no longer OP magic royalty and couldn't farm the one in Ritual Path. I just wasn't strong enough. But even when I decided to farm off the Ritual Path one exclusively, and after receiving my first pure Bladestone, I forgot about needing Bladestone chunks. And of course, when after getting a decent number of chunks and finally a pure Bladestone, it was now time to get a bunch more pure fucking Bladestones and over 100 shards while getting no chunks. But it's still so fucking hilarious that I got a pure Bladestone with no Black World tendency and no Providential Ring, no nothing in my first playthrough. Overall, if it's not evident by me explaining shit from my playthrough that doesn't need explaining, I thoroughly enjoyed this game. And while Dark Souls 1 is still my overall favorite Souls game because the vibe is just fucking unmatchable, this has got to be my favorite Souls game to just play over and over again. Because it's the first Souls game, it has the benefit of being the most straightforward and simplistic, and it's the shortest, so memorizing all the enemy placements, all the locations of items, etc, is so easy. And along with the added benefit of being able to close game and effectively delete the hardest part of the game, which is having to go through the entire fucking level again to progress should you die, I can now take back my probably already invalid statement that Bloodborne is the best Souls game for casuals. It's Demon Souls, baby. While Demon Souls still doesn't dwindle down some of the RPG elements as much as Bloodborne does, once you look up which build you want, follow a guide, and get overpowered, it becomes an incredibly easy, yet still incredibly enjoyable experience that anyone that's skilled enough at video games can handle. Bluepoint Games has once again knocked it out of the fucking park with a remake. Like I said, I never played Demon Souls on PS3, but judging from the gameplay I've seen, they did such a fantastic job of maintaining the vibe. I can't think of two more perfectly remade games as far as maintaining the integrity of the original, but at the same time rightfully enhancing it, as much as Demon Souls and Shadow of the Colossus. So please fucking remake Dark Souls 1. Please. Fuck all these idiots in forums talking about the remaster is enough, and we don't want fucking From Software and fucking the Soul series to be a fucking cash cow bullshit. Fuck you. If you need proof why you need a fucking Dark Souls 1 remake, just look at this shitty boss. Now that's a beautiful shitty boss. If you like this, leave a like, comment, and perhaps subscribe, and I just might make some more.
Okay. Good day. Be sure not to get yourself killed.